What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Zero Fidelity. My name is Sean, and today I'm going to have a little bit of fun by talking about a pair of speakers that I've been wanting to own for a long time, the Infinity Kappa 600s. Now, as usual, before I talk about how they sound, first I'm going to take a closer look at the speakers themselves. So, let's get right to it. Alright guys, so I'm not sure about you, but to me, these speakers are downright gorgeous. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that they were both designed and made in Denmark, which means they have the typical European flair to them. Now, these speakers are built incredibly well. They weigh in at 71 pounds apiece, and the cherry veneer that you see right here, even though my camera doesn't really do it justice, looks absolutely gorgeous and is definitely furniture grade. So now, let's take a closer look at the driver complement. Alright, so the Infinity Kappa 600s are three-way loudspeakers that feature a 1-inch tweeter, a 6.5-inch mid-range driver, and a 10-inch side-firing woofer. They're 90 dB efficient, and they feature a sloped baffle that'll help allow for phase coherency between the mid-range driver and the tweeter. Now, all of the drivers are actually made of the same general material, which is called ceramic metal matrix diaphragm. And Infinity has focused on these drivers because they claim that they perform better than your typical polypropylene and doped paper drivers. And I can't really comment one way or the other if that's true, but I will say that they've invested a lot of money into it, and they do perform reasonably well from what I can hear. So with that said, let's move on to the other parts of the speaker. Alright guys, so here's going to be a quick shot of the 10-inch side-firing woofer. And here's a shot of the back of the speakers. So as you can tell here, we have a bi-wire terminal that feature gold-plated 5-way binding post. Now the jumpers are going to be my own. The stock jumpers that come with the speakers are essentially these things right here. So I think they sound a little bit better with my own jumpers, but maybe that's just placebo. Otherwise guys, this is it. Now let's talk about how they sound. Alright guys, so before I even brought these speakers home, one of the first things I did is I went online to do a bunch of research and try and figure out what people had to say about them. And in a nutshell, I found a very polarizing response to the Kappa 600s. Some people absolutely love these things, and some people honestly just didn't like them at all. And after spending a bunch of time with them, I understand why. These speakers have a very distinct character. They're very open sounding, they're very clean sounding, but there's really no warmth at all to them unless you pair them with warm-sounding electronics. Otherwise, what you get is going to be a very forward sound. It's going to be slightly thin in the mid-range, and it's going to be bumped up into treble. Now, in some regards, this can be a great thing. If you throw great recordings at them, then you're going to get a very realistic portrayal of the musical event. But anything that's recorded just yeah, these are going to be pretty unforgiving. Now, first let's focus on the treble. As I mentioned before, the tweeter seems to be boosted just a little bit from the rest of the presentation. I actually thought about putting some resistors in line with the tweeter just to see what I get. But overall, it has a very articulate, clean, airy sound to it. It's very detailed, but again, it is boosted, so more times than not, it's going to draw attention to itself. Some people love that, some people don't. The mid-range, I think, is the speaker's most salient attribute. It's very open, very articulate, very clear. Like the tweeter, it's very airy, and I love how it's able to retrieve tonal nuance. For example, I have some acoustic guitar CDs, and I love the way these speakers sound with that kind of material. It's hyper-realistic, and I absolutely love that. But on some other material, there's just times where I feel like it could use more meat on the bone, and it could use a little bit of a softer top end. But it is what it is. Now, we have the bass. And the bass, normally I don't like side-firing woofers, and in this case scenario, I think they did a pretty good job executing it. I think the 30 Hz rating is maybe a little bit optimistic, but nonetheless, you can count on really good bass out of these things. It is pretty tight, it is pretty clear, and overall it digs deep enough to where some of you may feel like you don't even need a sub with them. So with that said, I'm going to go to my final thoughts on the Infinity Kappa 600s. Alright guys, so this is when the conclusion is going to be a little bit weird. Now, normally, I admit, I don't care for this type of sound. I don't care for boosted treble, I don't care for slightly thin mid-range, and I definitely don't care for side-firing woofers. So you think this would be a recipe for just disaster, or at least as far as my bias is concerned. But strangely enough, I kind of like these speakers. I kind of forgot what it was like to experience speakers in the 2003-2004 era that were designed to have distinct strengths and subsequently would have distinct weaknesses. And I've come to find that when you're able to hone in on the speaker's strengths, what you get is a damn good presentation. And I kind of like the quirkiness of them. Now, with that being said, they're not for everybody, but I almost feel like it's irrelevant saying that because they've been out of production for like 12 years now. But overall, I think Infinity did a good job with them, and I would love to see Infinity start to release more higher-end efforts because they have a tenured history, and these speakers weren't bad when they were released, and I'm pretty sure they can still do something like this, if not even better, right now. So with that said, thanks for watching, guys, and until next time, peace.